So, are you ready to go camping?
You ever get that feeling where you just need to get away for the weekend? Okay, now imagine that, but your getaway spot has an average temperature of minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit and, no breathable air. Today, we're jumping into what a camping trip on Mars would really be like, all based on the wild misadventures of some colonists who were either very brave or maybe just a little bit foolish.
So I gotta ask you, are you ready for that weekend getaway? Because our colonists, Sara, Alex, and Dan, they sure thought they were. I mean, they were sick of the recycled air, sick of the algae juice. They decided it was time for a real outdoor adventure.
But here's the thing. As we see in stories like these, the great outdoors on the red planet, it's not exactly a walk in the park. It's more like a walk in a freezing, irradiated vacuum. This whole story isn't just about camping. It's about the sheer absurdity of trying to relax in one of the most hostile places you can possibly imagine.
Okay, so how do you even get ready for something like this? Well, it's not about packing light. It's about packing to stay alive. Our campers found out pretty quick that this isn't a trip to Yellowstone. It's more like gearing up for the apocalypse.
All right, let's break this down. Your typical Earth checklist, pretty simple stuff, right? Tent, sleeping bag, snacks. But on Mars, the essentials take on this, let's say, existential tone. You're not just packing a tent, you're packing a portable anti-radiation shield. Your sleeping bag needs to literally stop you from floating away. And right next to the snacks, you might want to pack a very, very strong will to live and, just in case, your last will and testament.
And you can always count on your friends to contribute, right? You've got Alex, who brings his experimental Plasma Toaster 3000, which sounds way less like a kitchen appliance and way more like a weapon. Then there's Dan, the eternal optimist, who brings exclusive space marshmallows that, and I quote, only explode a little. So yeah, this trip is already off to a fantastic start.
So let's talk about the journey itself. Getting to your campsite isn't just a simple drive. On Mars, the commute is an extreme sport, where it feels like physics itself has a personal grudge against you.
And this is their ride, a pressurized rover they've lovingly nicknamed Please Don't Break Down Here, which, let's be honest, is less of a joke and more of a constant, desperate prayer they're whispering every single time the vehicle makes a funny noise.
The drive out to the methane lake was eventful. Let's see. It included three near-death experiences, a couple of close calls with massive dust devils, a supercritical wheel alignment problem, and, of course, a steady flow of existential crises while staring out into that vast, empty Martian landscape.
And this perfectly captures what happens when they finally get there and try to set up camp. On Earth, it's a chore. On Mars, with that low gravity, it's a full-on chaotic ballet. You unpack the tent and then immediately tries to escape into orbit. The guy lines become an inescapable trap, and you, my friend, find yourself seriously questioning every single life choice that led you to this exact moment.
Now with the camp mostly secure, it's time for the main event, a little fishing. Except, of course, the lake isn't filled with water, it's liquid methane, and they have absolutely no idea what, if anything, actually lives in there.
So the first couple of hours are just as boring as you'd think. Just 3 people in bulky spacesuits dangling fishing lines into a lake of poison. The only real excitement is Dan falling in, which apparently is a thing that happens. But then, in hour 4, something bites.
So what did they pull out of that lake? Well, after some analysis, it turns out it was about half jellyfish, part lobster, and a whole lot of pure, unadulterated nightmare fuel. This thing was a living, squirming argument for never, ever going fishing on another planet.
And what does Dan say when he sees this horrifying alien creature pulled from the depths? I bet it tastes like chicken. You just have to admire his boundless optimism, even when he's face to face with a cosmic horror. Don't worry, they threw it back.
As evening sets in, the whole vibe just shifts. The weird fun of the day starts to fade, and this eerie silence of the Martian night takes over. Suddenly, the planet isn't a quirky backdrop anymore. It's a huge, dark wilderness, and they feel very, very small. So, to pass the time, they start playing a game of marshmallow Russian roulette with Alex's plasma toaster, and they're taking bets on what new, terrifying sound the rover is making. It's this bizarre, cozy moment of friendship in a completely alien world, right before everything goes sideways.
And then, someone asks the question that just hangs in the airless void. A sound.
a sound that shouldn't even be possible in that thin atmosphere. It was deep, and it was close.
It wasn't the rover. It definitely wasn't the wind. It was something else, something alive. And just like that, they realized they were not alone out there.
They never got a good look at it, but what they could piece together was absolutely terrifying. As you can see from their quick assessment, its size was somewhere between too big and oh no. It was faster than their rover, it sounded hungry, and it seemed to have a very personal interest in their campsite. The camping trip was officially over.
So their fun little getaway had just turned into a survival horror movie. What came next was a mad dash for their lives, and, later, a trip report that tried to make some sense of all the chaos.
Here's their official escape plan, broken down into 4 easy steps. It started with the fastest packing job in human history, followed by a sprint to the rover that would have made an Olympian jealous. Then came a whole lot of frantic prayer, and it all ended with them pushing that poor rover to speeds it was never, ever meant to hit.
Sara's final report pretty much says it all. The big takeaways? First, Mars has wildlife and it is absolutely terrifying. Second, marshmallows can be used as deadly weapons. Third, Dan will try to eat literally anything. Fourth, Alex's inventions need to be outlawed. And finally, camping on Mars, it's just a really expensive way to die.
And how did the colony leadership react to their terrifying discovery? They turned it into a tourist trap, of course. This notice went up on the main board, cheerfully advertising the new campsite with its scenic methane lakes and, oh yeah, unknown predatory wildlife. Visit at your own risk, indeed.
So this whole crazy story leaves us with one last question. We now have a pretty good idea that the red planet isn't empty. There's something big out there, and it's probably not friendly. So knowing that, would you still go? Is that thrill of adventure really worth the risk of becoming some apex predator's afternoon snack? Something to think about.